Hi, I'm Randy Reed, editor of the Edison Report, and welcome to LightFAST, where we strive to deliver education in 10 minutes or less. Today, we are joined by Tommy Nichols, the Business Development Director, Healthcare at Acuity Brands, and we are here to discuss evidence-based design. Tommy, welcome.
Hello, Randy. Thank you for having me here today.
Well, you bet. We're glad to have you. And start off, just tell our audience a little bit, what is evidence-based design?
Evidence-based design is almost this technique that's being incorporated primarily on healthcare relevant projects, but it's translatable for so many of the different types of projects that we work on. That's about making decisions around the built environment to improve some kind of outcome, ideally. So it's overlaying this process with the normal design and construction process that our designer friends go through and other healthcare influencers to make sure that we're incorporating techniques on our projects through the design phase, through the construction phase, to make sure that we're improving some kind of outcome for a patient, a caregiver, whoever it is.
Okay. Am I correct? This kind of got its start, I think, by a paper, I think Ehrlich in 1984.
Mr. Roger, yes,
Did I
1984
pronounce
was
it
kind of the
right?
pioneer. Yes.
Okay. Tell our audience a little about how he started and what that study was.
That was actually one of my favorite ones to speak about. That was redone actually in the mid 2010s. But back in 1984, there was this study done that compared two sets of patients coming out of surgeries. And what they did is they exposed one patient to a room that had, think of like a very urban type landscape, a brick wall. And then the other room, they had pictures of trees, more views of nature. And through this study, they found that the patients who had access to the natural views had an expedited recovery, better felt and reported better connectivity with the nurses, and also needed less pain relieving medication.
What lighting practices contribute to evidence-based designs?
There's a few of them. A lot of them come down to control of one's surround of the lighting. So let's think about a patient room, right? You have a patient who goes into a healthcare facility, maybe overnight, maybe for a prolonged period of time. And it's an intimidating spot. It's not necessarily someone's home, right? But it becomes their home for a period of time. So there's some simple techniques that we have been incorporating and will continue to incorporate, allowing a patient or a resident control over their surround. Maybe it's as simple about taking the over bed lighting and having it integrate with a patient pillow switch or a pillow speaker so that someone can dim, adjust their light levels, very simple things to feel like they have control over their space when they're healing. But it's expanded so much more than that. Now, you can carry this into the patient rooms, but very commonly discussed in radiology type spaces, specifically MRIs. Someone's going into this very large, intimidating, loud machine. So we can start to incorporate, as lighting practitioners and designers, visual distraction type luminaires. That before a patient is brought into that imaging machine, into the MRI, they have the ability to feel more calm when they're looking at clouds, when they're looking at trees, when they're looking at some kind of aquatic landscape, just incorporated in light fixtures above our heads.
How would you go about maintaining these types of designs with evidence-based designs?
Yeah, this goes back to like the core and almost the start of the evidence-based design process. Like essentially your step one is designing your evidence-based goals with the healthcare system, those decision makers who are driving the decisions of their healthcare facility that's either being erected or significantly renovated. And you figure out what some of their ailments or pain points from previous facilities may be. So maybe it's they've had significant issues with patient falls, hospital acquired infections. And you, as the influencer driving this design, understands those pain points. Then you can go look at some of the research that exists that has addressed those pain points in the past. But during that step, during that phase, I guess I'll say, in the evidence based design process, you're forming this core interdisciplinary team that might include a contractor, them might include manufacturers who have more like expert level history and knowledge. It's going to include potentially other designers, maybe C-suite staff, maybe nurses and doctors. And you form this team from the get-go when you're going through this process so that you get buy-in early on. And then as you go through the design and the construction phase, these items that you're looking to keep on the project stay on the project.
Okay, so Tommy, what you're saying sounds brilliant. It sounds rational. It makes a lot of sense. Is it practical? Is it practical? Are you going to get these people together and meet and have these discussions? And have you seen that?
We've seen it happen, and when you look at research that's been accumulated, and one of like the key groups to look to is the Center for Health Design that has accumulated all of this information on past projects that have incorporated this strategy on it. While for many projects that we're all involved with, it might seem so intimidating and so hard to get everyone in a room, get
Right.
everyone aligned on this project, including folks like contractors who tend to come in near the more end of a project. Get them in from day one so that you can get buy-in. Here's why this is so important and vital, though, especially for healthcare. Healthcare facilities are often seen as these almost like a sunk cost for a healthcare facility, right? Day one, they have to erect this brick and mortar that's going to cost some kind of financial outlay for the healthcare network. If the healthcare network or system is investing in this building that they're looking to showcase as this superstar type facility, they want these tactics to be incorporated on their project so that they get better reviews, they get expedited patient healing and outcomes as it directs to the bottom line for the healthcare facility. You add a little extra investment for these evidence-based design tactics up front, carry it through the process. Once the building opens and you get more positive satisfaction scores, it's going to relate to additional revenue coming back to the healthcare facility.
Sure. When the falls don't happen as much, the
Correct.
hospital benefits. Okay, is there a certification process for evidence-based design?
There sure is. And by no means do you have to get it, but as for folks who are going to be working on healthcare projects, and this is not just limited to designers by any means. This might be contractors, this might be executive staff at healthcare networks, architects, engineers, lighting designers, absolutely. Manufacturers may acquire, study for, take the test, and get their certification for this program that's called the EDAC certification, EDAC. It's sponsored by the Center for Health Design. And what it does, it allows the individual to essentially become masters of the process, of the steps, of the implementation, and have awareness to the research around evidence-based design techniques so that when you're working on this healthcare project, there's almost credibility added behind you that you've gone through this process. You're familiar with this process and how it all works to keep these evidence-based techniques on a project, manage the project, and I would say one of the most important facets to it is 6 months after the facility has opened. We typically bring in some kind of, ideally, third-party research company to host questionnaires to get, did this work, qualitative and quantitative data, to make sure the investments that we made, the strategy and the process that we went through was valuable for that facility. But even if it wasn't, guess what? We report on those results.
Okay, do you have your certification?
I sure did. I got it just a few months back.
Tommy, any closing comments?
This is a subject that I just recommend that so many folks at least go on the Center for Health Design website and look at some of the research that exists. Review the steps of evidence-based design that we can overlay with our projects today, whether you have the certification or not, to familiarize with what other designers, healthcare influencers have inspired and placed on their projects to improve both patient experience and caregiver effectiveness.
Okay, well, Tommy, thank you very much.
Thank you, Randy.